What a 5 days it was for Barcelona in those two meetings with Sevilla, the win in La Liga and then the win in the Copa that puts them into the final. You can see the reaction from the papers up in Barcelona. Sid Lowe joining us now to talk more about it. Sid, just how big of a result was this for Barcelona, this Cup win?
I think it's really significant in its own sense. I think it's significant because, as Koeman had been saying about a month ago now, the Cup is the shortest route towards some success this season, a season that everybody has been talking about as a transitional year. But I think it's become bigger than that. And it's become bigger than that because of the way in which they've won. They needed two very late goals to get through against Granada, then went into extra time. The fact that they got this goal with the last touch of normal time before going into extra time and Braithwaite scoring, the emotional element of that, the way in which that I think helps them to build as a team and build a kind of a collective identity, I think is really important. And then you can take it as well from what Gerard Piqué himself had said against Sevilla in the league. He said if we turn this round in the second leg, this changes our entire season. Not just in the Copa del Rey, but I think in La Liga as well. And I think Barcelona will feel, depending of course on what happens in the derby, in the Madrid derby at the weekend, I think Barcelona will feel that they can now maybe compete for the league title as well, in a season in which there had been some acceptance that maybe they wouldn't compete for anything.
Yeah, now suddenly they could be in for more than one trophy. And I'll tell you what else, Lionel Messi looks a lot happier. Might this have changed his thoughts on his future?
Well, look, to be honest, we don't know. And this has been, of course, the question that's hung over the entire season. What does Messi do next? How does this impact upon Barcelona in terms of their planning for the future? Obviously, it's been a big part of the presidential campaign as well. And those elections are on Sunday. All three candidates saying and repeatedly saying, we want Messi to stay. Does this change the way that he feels about things? It should do, up to a point. And I think it should do as well the fact that he's seen some young players come through and play really well this season. We've seen good performances from Frenkie de Jong, but in particular, of course, early in the season, we saw Ansu Fati, and now we're seeing Pedri. And maybe that helps Messi to believe that there's something to play for. That said, I think there's a fundamental fact with Lionel Messi, and that is that he's very aware now that there's maybe only, 1, 2, perhaps 3 years left of his career. And I think in the end of it, the decision will come down to his belief or otherwise as to whether or not he feels that he can win another Champions League. I think that's the thing that really drives him now, winning another Champions League before he retires. Because
there's some great youth coming through, and I suppose under the right guidance, the future could look a lot brighter for Barca, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've talked about Barcelona as being in crisis, and they absolutely are, and this isn't us backing away from that. There's an institutional crisis. I think there's even an ethical or moral crisis at the club. There's been a footballing crisis as well, of course. I mean, look, we're talking about a team that conceded 8 goals to Bayern Munich at the end of last year's Champions League, a team that's just been beaten very, very heavily by Paris Saint-Germain. But when you look at that crisis, you also have to look at what you have to build with. And if you look at the quality of players like De Jong, like Ter Stegen, like Ansu Fati, even Dembele, who started to play very well now, there is the basis of a very, very good side there. The question, of course, now is whether they can build the players around it and what Messi feels about that. And Barcelona are in a difficult position because, of course, the team depends on him. But the club depends on him as well now because they need to find out what he wants to do before they make a firm decision about how they move on from here.
Is Griezmann in a difficult position right now, Sid? He's not started the last 3 games. Would he actually get into Barca's Gala 11, their best 11?
Well, right now he wouldn't because, as you say, he's not played the last 3 games. And actually, at least 2 of those last 3 games, Sevilla away in La Liga and Sevilla at home in the Cup, those were games in which Ronald Koeman played what he believes is his very strongest side. And so Griezmann wasn't out of that because of rotations. He wasn't out of that because his manager was trying to make a point. He was out of that team on both of those occasions because his manager felt this was the best way to win games that were genuinely difficult against a genuinely tough opponent. So right now, no, Griezmann isn't in that team. That said, and I think it's worth pointing this out, Griezmann came on in the second half at that point at which Barcelona were looking for that final goal. And of course, Griezmann provided the cross for Gerard Piqué. So he's not out of it in terms of he just doesn't have a future. But right now, if there was a Champions League final tomorrow and Barcelona were playing in it, to be honest, I think Antoine Griezmann wouldn't start.
Is that not a worry for him?
Of course it is. Absolutely it is. And you know, this is a worry that's been ongoing. And I think one of the difficult things for Griezmann is it never quite... He never quite consolidates. He never quite has continuity. So bear in mind that we had that period in January. He didn't play away at Huesca, and there was that footage of him before the game watching his teammates warm up, and he was standing by an exit sign. And this seemed like the perfect metaphor for Griezmann's situation at Barcelona, that he had to find a way out of there and it wasn't going to work. And then he went on a run. in which he played really, really well. For 5 or 6 weeks, he was scoring goals, he was providing assists. It felt like Barcelona had found a structure that worked, a 4-3-3, in which he played on the left-hand side of a front three, and here at last was his role. And then Koeman changes the formation again. And he changes the formation to play with wing-backs, to have only 2 men up front, that's Dembele and Messi, and Griezmann finds himself out of it again. And there were periods even last year, in that season, which we questioned where he would fit, in which actually there were moments when he played. There were moments when it felt like, okay, maybe we're finding a solution here. And it's that lack of consolidation and continuity for Griezmann that would worry him. I suppose from his point of view, the good news is that he's young enough, and I think he's got a good enough reputation that if Barcelona were to decide, okay, Griezmann doesn't have a long-term future with us, he would find a club to go to.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.